It looks like our poor old Cup buddies couldn't put up a proper fight up against the devil himself. But I guess that's why you don't do deals with an evil casino owner. Artists beware, for we are about to draw the soul-thirsty devil. From the game Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil. Let's get started. Let's begin with the devil's left foot. Make a very cartoony Yeti type foot with 3 toes poking out in the front. And then we're going to go ahead and make his sharp pointed kind of Christmas tree like fur going up. And make the little nails for his toes. Now as you can see, I'm making cylinder type shapes for his legs and then making the fur around it. The devil has this jelly bean type body, so it's pretty round, but on the outside it's pointy because of his fur. And on his left arm, go ahead and make a cylinder for the base of the arm and make a circle with 3 fingers holding a pitchfork, kind of like a trident, and then the shaft coming down behind his left foot. And then I'm going to go ahead and make his right leg kind of kneeling outwards right there, and of course the same treatment with the other foot, but his toes are going to be more exposed now. Now I'm going to put down my paper a little bit further and make Cuphead and Mugman's heads, because if you don't know, if you fail in the boss battle of the game, your heads are taken away. So that sucks for these guys. So just go ahead and make some cup and mug shapes. Make the eyes and the little cartoony mouths and of course the straws for them. But do not make the eyes. You want to make the eyes empty and put really sad frowny faces. And also a liquid puddle right there to simulate them melting on the floor from the devil's wrath. Now, let's go ahead and make the devil's right arm. Now, his hand is going to be holding the 2 snake eye dice that Cuphead and Mugman tried to bet for all of his riches in the casino with, but unfortunately showed up with the dreaded snake eyes. So, make a claw-like hand. Now, in the middle, between the 2 dice, I made a finger right there. I changed it a little bit, but that's what you want to do. You want to make a little finger in the middle of the dice so it's more balanced and it looks more convincing. Because the way I did it right there, it doesn't look too good. Of course, make his shoulder going up. And once we're done with those details, we're about to make the head. Now make a big circle and a nice devilish smile, of course. Make his large teeth, little cheeks, and a Squidward-like nose in the middle, with some very cartoony 1930s devil eyes. Go up on your paper and make his really long devil horns. And his devilish ears as well, kind of like elf ears, if you will. And in the middle of those eyes, make those iconic 1930s Pac-Man eyes. Sharpen your lines, and this is a rough draft, so neatness is not necessary, but towards this part of the drawing, you kind of do want to sharpen around a couple of edges here and there to make it a little bit more neater, to clean it up a bit. And also, do not forget his tail. I tend to forget about the tails of a lot of creatures when I draw, so don't forget about that. Make his devilish little tail right there. Don't forget the arrow on the tip. I kind of played with this pose because a lot of source images I saw, weren't really working out because they were either too big or too wide and didn't really fit on my paper. So I made this pose and it fits perfectly. So if you are making a character that doesn't really fit on your paper, or you just want to make him a different pose, just play with it, Don't forget to make some brow details right there to emphasize his devilish grin, his demeanor, his look. Sharpen around the edges right there, making some patches of fur in the body. And there's an overlook of the sketch itself. Pause if you need to. So now, the next step, if you want, is to trace it with a fine point Sharpie or an ultra fine point Sharpie. and just trace all around the drawing if you want to color it. Now, this is not a necessary process. You can do without this, but it does make the coloring much more neater. Now, go ahead and erase those pencil lines, and make sure that you thoroughly erase them, because if you have any pencil lines left over when you color, the coloring is going to expose those leftover pencil lines. So make sure you get everything, the cup heads, the pitchfork, the body, the snake eyes, everything. Now, getting out of black and white, we're going to go ahead and get a black colored pencil and color the devil's entire body, except for his feet, with a black. So don't forget to color his tail with black, and his body, except for his feet and his hands. And of course, his head. And make sure that his body, his tail, and his head share the same coat of black. You don't want to be inconsistent. Like, for example, you don't want his body to be really dark, but his face be really light. So make sure you have a consistent shade throughout coloring him. And this is kind of like a coloring book, so stay within the lines if you can. But if you mess up here and there, a little white out won't do any harm. It'll help you out if you make any mistakes marking up certain spots, so it's a useful tool. But if you don't, you could always erase a little bit. But I always tell my viewers to be very careful and be very slow and methodical when coloring, because like markers, you can't really erase colored pencil too well. And now for the feet, I'm coloring them a gray. I'm starting with a light base tone and then working my way up to darker base tones. And now in the middle of both the feet and the hands, there I use a medium base tone and then a dark base tone in the middle. Kind of give it that extra shading detail, trying to stay a little bit true to the source images. And I'm going to do the same for the hands, kind of coloring in the fingers with a darker shade of gray. So I compiled this pose from multiple sources of images. So that's what I would also recommend doing as well if you're stumped on a particular pose. Now, keeping that gray, you want to go ahead and color the puddle and our little Cuphead buddies, and darken in the eyes a little bit, and also add a dark shade of gray around the edges of the cup and the mug to simulate a shadow overcasting the shadow from the devil's foot overcasting on the cup and the mug. And also color in your cup head and mug man with a red and blue respectively. Color in your snake eyes dice with a red, a nice bright red, and I'm using a golden yellow, but you can use a regular yellow Crayola pencil and color his devil trident. And also his eyes, but leave a little corner, a triangle in like the mouth of the Pac-Man eyes. Make sure you leave that white, and just color the rest of the eyes yellow, just so you can have that nice little shine. And I darken in his eyebrows and around his mouth with a dark shade of black. Just get that extra detailed shading. Then I made an overcasting shadow around his left foot. You don't really need to do that around the puddle. And for the horns, I just colored them a light gray. So as you can see here, I'm just looking at certain places that need to be colored. Like, for example, that right leg, I wasn't really too happy with it. I wanted to color it a little bit darker to keep that same consistency of shade that I mentioned before. And just clean up your drawing, just give a basic review of it, and fix it and tweak it until it meets your standards. And guys, once you're done with that, the final result is an evil villain from the game Cuphead. So guys, this was really fun to draw. I really do love all the characters in this game. So if you played Cuphead, tell me what you think about it. Is it a fun game? What in particular do you like about it? Personally, it's right off the bat, obviously, it's the art style. But I want to know your opinions on it. So post them in the comments below if you feel like you want to share your opinion. And guys, with that being said, I'll catch you on the next video of Spooktober.